honest, because if it helps anybody, then it's worth it.
Yeah. Okay. Dress the elephant in the room.
Dress the panda in the room.
Rude. This is the reason why you wear SPF, otherwise you burn yourself and look like a big polo. If I keep smiling, you won't be able to see the big panda circles that are going on around there where my sunglasses were.
Honestly.
Sorry.
I try. There's only so much you can lead a duck to water. No, horse.
Your horse to water, but you can't force them to drink.
Oh my goodness, Andrea.
This is a biggie. If ever we've had a big one, you're about to dump that.
Is you about to shiz?
Sorry. What was I supposed to be saying then? You're about to dump a big one. Not sure that's the right word.
Oh, I don't even know where to start with this. First of all, no matter what the title says, no matter who you are, you please just need to listen to this video. If you don't need it now, you're going to need it one day in your life.
Okay.
And somebody else you know is going to need it, right? And I'm very confident in that. I personally feel like I have won the lottery with this information. It's life-changing. It's been life-changing for me, and I feel like I'm gatekeeping if I don't tell you now, to be honest. Should we do a card?
Please, let's do a card. Let's get this
show on the road. Okay, we're going for mindful meditation today. I don't remember what we did last week, but this is the first one I picked out. So
okay,
it shall be this.
Yes, okay.
Andrea, pick us a card.
I will, McKenna. And this is the card I'm going for.
Oh, she's got two.
Christ, there's two. I'm going to pick the shortest one.
Right. Follow a bathroom ritual. Take a moment to breathe and contemplate rather than just as a means to get out the door. Follow it. It's very toilet-based today so far.
Take a moment to breathe and contemplate rather than just as a means to get out of the door.
So instead of dump and leave, we need to take a breath.
Dump and breathe.
Inhale that aroma.
Actually, very apt for the video, McKenna.
Very apt. This is not a joke.
Let's just leave that there, because I reckon when we read that later on, people will be a bit more aware of what's going on there.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Right, we'll get back to that. First of all, before we do anything, so you don't forget, like this video, subscribe, share with a friend. It's going to be very important. Leave a comment. This needs to be shared far and wide, and we need to hear people's words, experiences,
feedback.
Like, how has this video made you feel? Has it helped you in any way? Can you pass this on to anybody? Anything, right? It's very important for this video in particular.
Yes.
We'll also start by saying we're not professionals, but I mean, if you've watched any of our videos, you know, we'll just say how it is. It's like a friend to a friend situation, right? We are going to talk to you as we would talk to our friend about this situation. I have personally been doing this with a professional, so it's based off professional advice, but I'm not the professional. I am just severely experienced in this field because of my own
issues.
Journey. Yeah. Darling, are you all ears? I think you are.
I think she'll be asleep in 5 minutes. Hope everybody else is in. Right, this is the big tamale, McKenna. The floor is yours.
Made notes.
I will just interject where I need to, so as to make sure that if people are confused or whatever with anything, we can just reiterate things.
Make sure I've covered all grounds.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yes.
Please interject.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Okay.
I feel like a newsreader.
And today's evening news is...
Back in, I think it was August last year, we did a video about my experience with chronic fatigue syndrome. I'm going to say it like that, chronic fatigue syndrome, okay? Yeah. That's not belittling it, that's just what we're calling it, right?
Yeah.
The amount of messages and comments, I mean, you can see for yourself if you go to the video, of people going through exactly the same thing or a totally similar thing, who also had nowhere to turn to, didn't know a solution, thought this was their life now. I mean, if you haven't seen the video, I'd recommend watching it because it just tells you my experience. I experienced chronic fatigue symptoms for about 13 years, since the age of 13. I'm nearly 26, is that 13?
Yeah.
You could say that I'd lived the majority of my life like that.
Yeah. You are an expert in this field.
I am. Through personal experience, right? And there's nothing like advice from someone who's experienced something.
Yes.
So even if you were not one of those people that messaged me or commented to say, I have exactly the same symptoms as you, I have something really similar, I'm exhausted all the time, chronic fatigue, ME, whatever. If you are a person who has stress issues, anxiety, OCD, intrusive thoughts, you're just a negative or insecure person with low self-esteem, you get migraines, any kind of unexplained issue. Keep doing that. Issue. Like, you've had blood tests, you've been to the doctors, they're trying to palm you off with some sort of medication that you don't think is necessary or right and not got to the bottom of it. I need you to listen to this. And if that's not you and you think there's absolutely nothing wrong, maybe there is, or maybe there isn't, but you know somebody who does have something that needs to be addressed and is struggling to find a solution because blood tests don't show anything and doctors have exhausted their list of things to suggest. This may be a part 1 to future videos. I was kind of waiting for a point where I felt like, yeah, I know everything now and I'm going to come and tell everybody start to finish. But I got a message the other night of a mum who was worried about her daughter who had similar symptoms to me. She was struggling. I thought, you know what? This is people's lives. They are out there like I was experiencing this right now, and why hold off any more days? Like, if this helps somebody else to start their journey right this second, then it's worth talking about it and then coming back at a later date with even more information to build on what I've already told you, instead of just staying silent until I feel like the time is right. The time is never right.
Correct.
The right time is now.
Correct.
I say the word cure loosely because, I mean, cure is like an end to something. This is an ongoing thing and it's not going to be the cure to everybody's problems. Right, it might be to some people, but it might not be to everybody. Chronic fatigue in particular, I know, can come as a secondary to other people's first illness that they have. So I'm not going to say this is going to cure everyone with chronic fatigue or ME. That is not what I'm saying. It's just with my particular presentation, this is what's worked. And I also feel like for many other people with many different presentations, this can also work. Andrea really likes this analogy that I use, right?
She did this earlier when we were talking about the whole subject.
Yeah.
I thought that is the most wonderful way of putting it for people to understand where you're at.
Yes, I am a super aware person in more ways than one. You know, I see signs from the universe, I see signs in myself. I feel like I'm so intuitive, sometimes to my detriment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Other people aren't as aware of their body as I am, but I was unaware of something that was going on. So the way I describe it is, I'm a 3-story townhouse. That is me, that is my body. I know it so well, I've always lived there. Everything in it is me. Like, I know that place like the back of my hand, right? Since I've been going through this awakening and this journey to almost fixing myself, I've realised I've got a basement. And this basement, I never knew was there, but after opening it up and looking inside, I'm like, okay, I actually recognise the things that are in this basement. I recognise them as being part of me, but I just never knew they were there. And it's a really odd feeling when you're such an aware person, because you're like, how could I have been so blind to what was going on beneath the surface? And I say I'm such a positive, happy person, which I genuinely still believe I am. And if you're sat there like, well, there isn't anything wrong because I'm positive and I'm happy and I'm just sailing along fine, like, I'm so happy with my life. I said exactly the same thing and I stand by that. But that doesn't mean there isn't something going on beneath the surface that is coming out in other ways. Right? So that's just important to note before I get into this next bit.
Okay.
Catch yourself back to the last video. I'll link it down below if you haven't seen it. It was where I, out of the blue, just said, this is what I've been dealing with since I was 13. No one knew, apart from my close circle of family and friends. Barely even that in some cases, because it was something that never really had an answer to it. And I didn't want it to be the case, so I kind of acted like everything was fine, when in reality it wasn't. I was very good at acting, like it was fine.
Yeah.
I put that video out, I got hundreds of messages and comments from people all over the world who said it had helped them, who said, if you get any information on how to fix this, then please tell me. Here I am now. But one message stood out in particular, And it was from a girl who I'd actually been to school with. We weren't in the same year, but we went to the same school. And she sent me this long message, and she said, I've just watched your video and I can't believe what I'm hearing. Like, this is everything that I've been through. Nothing was showing up in blood tests. I was totally confused. I thought this was me for life. It was getting worse. And she said that she'd been to see a psychologist. And just reading that message, I was like, oh, flipping hell, psychologist. I'd never even thought of that as a route, because I was looking for either a tablet to fix the issue because it was a physical issue. And also, I think when you hear psychological, it's like you're making it up, which is totally not the case, and I'll get into that. But when I read it, I almost thought, oh, okay, this could be an option. And it's an option that had never, ever, ever been discussed to me by doctors, and I've been seeing them for 13 years. No one had ever mentioned it to me.
The parting shot had actually been, if it's chronic fatigue, McKenna, it's something that you're going to have to learn to live with.
Yes. Deal with your parameters. This is you. See how you can get by with it, basically. Which, looking back at that, is so bad and so wrong. And I actually want to go back to the doctors, and I might just send them the video and be like, please, if anybody comes to you with similar sort of symptoms or something unexplained, just mention this, because it could change somebody's life. She sent me this message and I was like, oh my goodness, this sounds different to anything I've heard before. I want to have a look into it. She sent me the details of the lady that she'd been seeing. Actually, she was first referred to a chronic fatigue specialist, who then referred her to this psychologist.
Right.
So we got in touch with the psychologist. I was actually in a crash at the time when you rang her, wasn't I?
I had to ring her, and I had to speak on McKenna's behalf, because she was in this crash mode at that moment, which meant that she couldn't physically speak to her because she couldn't lift her head high enough to be able to be on the telephone.
Yeah.
And I explained the background of McKenna very quickly, and she said, absolutely, I definitely feel that I can help here.
She also said, and I do this without using any medication. And that was something, I was like, what is she going to do to me? I thought I was going to go in there and be hypnotised, honestly. Because I mean, call me naive, but I don't know what a psychologist does. Now I do, but I didn't know. And I thought, am I going to go in here if she's going to dangle something over me and cure me?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't Google it. I went into it completely open-minded, which is really important throughout this whole process.
Yes.
Be totally open to anything.
Yes.
And I think when you've been through chronic symptoms, migraines all the time, this is what I had, if you're experiencing this, low self-esteem constantly, chronic fatigue, exhaustion, you just want something that is going to fix it. So you've got to be open, because surely anything's worth a shot. The girl who got in touch with me said she sometimes has like a 2-month waiting list, and I was like, okay, I've waited 13 years, I can wait 2 months. So on the phone, she goes to Andrea, right, it will be about a 2-week wait. And I'm sat there like, oh, thank the Lord. Like, and Andrea's like, that's okay, we can cope with that. 2 weeks is fine. So it was 2 weeks, and I got straight in there. She got me in. She'd actually closed her waiting list, but she got me in because she said she sees too many young women in this situation who she doesn't want them to live the rest of their life like that, so she wants to help, which obviously I'm so grateful for, because I wouldn't be at this point now saying what I'm saying. I was lucky enough to be in a position to go to a psychologist, but psychologists, therapists, anybody who you go to see like that is not cheap. It's just not. And I'm so privileged to be in that situation that I could go, but I know so many people aren't. So I feel like with this video, what I want to do is, in a non-official way, give you the information that I've been given, that I would share with a friend who is going through something. I mean, you could say take it with a pinch of salt, but I've had results that have actually worked from this. And as a person that's been through it, I feel like I have a duty to be able to say, like, this has definitely worked, because I know firsthand.
And it's not just a question of it's worked, it's changed your entire life.
Changed my life.
On a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Implementing certain things that were totally within your control and just require a bit of time.
Exactly. Some people might be so deeply ingrained in whatever's going on that the only thing that's going to help you is going to see a professional about it, a psychologist, a therapist, whoever. But if you can take these things that I'm saying and help yourself in any way before having to go down that route, surely it's worth it. This is totally free. And I'm telling you what I've learned from all these times going. And I'm still going now, so there'll be more to tell you. I was really nervous because obviously I didn't know what to expect. And I had an hour sat there with her, and the best way I can describe it was like a therapy session. I've never had one, but it's how you would imagine it. It's how you see it on the movies. She went through a few rules of what we do there, like how it's totally confidential, everything like that. Totally confidential. She said I can tell people anything, but she's not going to tell people about me. Even though I'm about to tell you anyway, so... I'm just going to be open and honest, because if it helps anybody, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
She went through all the rules and regulations, and then all I can remember is she was asking me about like school and life at home and just about me really through childhood. And there was a few, like she was writing notes constantly. She was also picking up on things that I was doing physically and things that I was saying and creating like a mind map on me. I noticed she was constantly writing things down. First 2 sessions, cried my eyes out. Couldn't tell you why. There was no trigger necessarily. I don't know, maybe it was just opening up. And it felt so odd and wrong to me to open up to a stranger. I can't even tell you. I am a person who will make sure that nobody has to be burdened by my problems, which isn't the right way to do things. But it's just the way I've always been. I'll deal with it myself. So for her to be asking like personal questions, not even that deeply personal, but to be telling a stranger who I've never met before about my life was flipping weird to me, and it felt totally backwards. And I came away from that session thinking, I've just cried in front of a stranger, I've told her everything about me, and now I'm like, what do I do now? I honestly, for the next week, or was it 2 weeks, before then seeing her again, I was just totally worried about the fact of what have I done? What the hell have I done? But I just kept thinking, trust the process. You've only seen her once. Like,
I'll never see her again.
Yeah. She doesn't really know me. Yeah, it was just such a weird situation. But anyway.
Yeah.
I went again and I cried again. And I felt better talking to her. And I've not cried since. Since those first 2 instances, I've not cried. It's not something to be proud of. I don't know why I'm telling you that. But I don't know, it was just odd. It was just weird. But that's where it started.
I always think, though, that being honest and vulnerable,
yes,
when you're very good at keeping those things hidden,
yeah,
it's a bit like a confession.
Yeah.
And so that does make you feel emotional, doesn't it?
But you have to. If you are at this point,
yeah,
you have to be totally honest. Don't hold anything back,
yeah,
because the things you're holding back are probably the things that need to come out.
Yeah.
And I just thought no, I'm going to go into this full throttle and get to the bottom of this, because there's no point doing it if not.
No.
You just got to be open and honest,
yeah,
with yourself and everybody else. Something to note at this point is, from the first session that I went and spoke to her, bearing in mind she just spoke to me about school for a bit and I cried, I didn't have a crash. And still to this day, bearing in mind this was back in September, I have not had a crash. After having crashes 3-4 times a week,
yeah,
it got to the point where it was that regular. From that first hour session, bearing in mind we probably only talked about it for half an hour, I have not had a crash, still to this day, which freaks the living daylights out of me. But from the moment I started talking to her, it brought this awareness to me and made me feel like I recognise everything she's talking about as a potential issue, and she was putting puzzle pieces together. And she was like, you just seem like a sponge, like everything I'm saying you're agreeing with. Is that because you're just like a people pleaser, you're just agreeing with everything? And I was like, it's not that, it's that everything you're saying I totally do agree with, and I recognise and I know these things about myself, and now that you're saying them in a, what do you call it, like a chronological pattern, and putting them all out in front of me in the right shape of the puzzle, it's all making sense to me. Because I became so aware in that moment, that is why I haven't had a crash, because I brought awareness to this thing that's happening. Mm-hmm. Wait until we get into it, honestly, there is so much more to say.
My bloody neck, it's swollen, it's that red.
Oh, and what are you like? You need after sun, you need aloe vera. There's not a lot more to say on that, other than I've been going to her, it's now every couple of weeks, and after I told her everything, I would then go back and she'd say, okay, what's been going on the last couple of weeks? How did you feel when certain things happened? I said to her 2 things that I've noticed. I haven't had a crash, right? And I kept telling her that. I keep telling her that every time I go, still haven't had a crash. But if I do, it's not something to panic about. The first thing is, I have noticed that I'm a lot more overwhelmed since I've been coming to her. Stress has been getting to me way quicker than it usually has. If somebody's telling me to do one thing and somebody else is saying something else at the same time, I go into sensory overload. I was a little bit like that before, but it was totally heightened, and I'd get like super emotional about it and have to walk away from the situation because it was too much for me to cope with. That's one thing I'd noticed since opening up. The second thing was things creeping into other areas that hadn't been a problem before. So yes, I hadn't had a crash, but other things were happening, such as we'd sit down to film a YouTube video and my mind would go blank and I'd have no words and I wouldn't know what to say. And then I'd get in a total mess because I'd be like, I've done this so many times, why can't I do this? I'm so pathetic that I can't possibly string a sentence together, and what is wrong with me? And
frustration.
Total frustration, anger at myself for not being able to do a simple task. I was like, but why is this happening? And it turns out when you start to be aware of the thing that was causing the original issues, it then starts to creep into other avenues because it's like, she's caught me on this bit, I need to pop up somewhere else. And it's that time of being vulnerable, you're so much more susceptible to these stressful things and to feeling panicky. And I now can step aside and recognise that. And I did think at the time, I wonder if this is because I've been talking to her and opening up, and like, you were opening the can of worms, basically. The worms were everywhere.
They were everywhere.
One thing she kept mentioning in the sessions was, I'm going to teach you about the brain. I'm going to teach you about the brain. I'm going to teach you about the brain. And that is what I was so excited for, because I was going to every session telling her things that had cropped up that I'd noticed. She was telling me how to deal with them. And it was just like day-to-day things, right? But I really wanted to know about this brain thing, because I thought, when I know about that, I think I'm a very black and white person, which actually is one of my things that can be a problem. But I like to know a solution to everything. I'm very much like a problem solution kind of gal. So I just wanted to know all about the brain that she kept talking about. So now I'm going to tell you about the brain in a very clear and I think amazing way.
Oh!
And it just puts everything into perspective.
Oh my god, she's got a diagram.
I've got a diagram. This is from my psychologist. She gave me this.
I'm getting ready by the bloody second, Bob's here, look. Is that because my eyes are getting whiter and my face is getting pinker, but I think it's because I'm enthralled.
Good, this is good.
Okay.
Right, if she turns into a tomato by the end of this, I've done my job right. One thing that I probably should mention before is, we've all heard of fight or flight.
Yeah.
Right? This adrenaline thing that goes on, it's instinct within us, okay? We all have it. You can't say you don't have it, we all have it.
Just
right?
explain in case anybody doesn't understand.
In nature, back when we were cavemen.
Ooh, probably in a pink cave, playing with flamingos.
Fight or flight is this part of the brain that saves our life, technically.
Right.
That's what it's there for. And every other animal on this planet has it. So say a beetle, that has fight or flight, which is as simple as it is. A bird comes near it and it freezes. Because if it freezes, it might blend into the ground and then not be eaten. Saves its life.
Yeah.
The same kicks in with us. So we have this instinct of fight or flight. If we walk up to a roadside, we're stood on the pavement, we walk up to a roadside, start to walk in the road, but notice a bus is coming, our fight or flight kicks in before our conscious mind and pulls us back. A hot pan. We kick in before we need to save our lives, right? So it's very important that we have this fight or flight, which is why we shouldn't be angry at it, because it is just doing its job. Now, the issue is, since we've evolved from cavemen and are no longer running from dinosaurs...
I don't know how much I've evolved, if I'm honest. Let's just pretend we've evolved a lot.
She's hairy and she bangs on her chest.
Actually, no, but what I would say is, as a cave woman, my hair is very, very similar. That's what I would say. Thank God for keratin treatment.
Things never change.
Yeah.
So since we've evolved and there's society and there's our own thoughts and opinions, there's other people's thoughts and opinions. Ow, I just cracked my finger. There's all these things that kind of interfere with that natural instinct to fight or flight. And the problem with a lot of people is the fight or flight kicks in with irrational things that aren't saving your life, but it kicks in thinking it is. The fight or flight kicks in, but because there's not a solution to it, as in, I'm now at the pavement, it's pulled me back to the pavement and I've not been run over by a bus. Adrenaline tap is switched off, fight or flight is set back again for the next time it needs to save your life. Because with these irrational things that we build up in our heads, they don't come with a solution of pulling you back to the side of the pavement.
Right.
So the adrenaline tap isn't switched off, which means it continues to flow through your body and be a chronic issue that will not stop because you've not turned the tap off, because there is no solution, because it's an irrational fear.
Yes.
The way she explained it to me was, and I'm just going to tell you what she told me. If I offend anybody in saying this, I'm sorry, right? But let's take a stereotypical bouncer.
Right. Is that a man stood on a doorway?
A man stood on the door of a club. He's got muscles.
Yes.
He means well, but he's got a fighty side to him.
Yes.
Right?
Stereotypical.
Stereotypical bouncer. If you're a bouncer, my darling, I'm not trying to offend you here, right? This is just trying to make everybody understand their fight or flight part of their brain.
Got ya.
So he stood on the door. You show him your ID. He's like, "You all right, love? You looking for a good time tonight?" And you're like, "Yeah, can't wait to get in there." And he's like, "You have any trouble? I'll come sort it out. Like, don't you worry, I'll look after you, darling." Right?
Yeah.
He means well.
Yes.
He is going to protect you.
Yes, he
He is your fight or flight.
Yes.
We're going to name this person. Mine has a name. He's called Greg.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Don't name it after somebody you know.
No.
But he is that bouncer that means well, but sometimes sticks his foot in it when he shouldn't.
Okay, right.
So here's an example. So then we get into the club, being chatted up at the bar, right?
Right.
There's this guy who's chatting me up.
Oh, you look great today,
yeah,
McKenna.
and I'm kind of liking it. I think, oh, this is going somewhere. And then Greg walks over and goes, "Is he bothering you, darling?" And before I have a chance to say anything, knocks him out on the floor. I'm stood there like, "Greg, what are you doing? Greg, what are you doing? Greg, what are you doing?" He's just knocked him out on the floor, right?
Yeah.
That situation is, he's come in to protect you, but in reality you didn't need protecting from it. So he's come in and he means well, and he's that fight or flight, he's there to protect you, but sometimes he doesn't need to be. And it's recognising those times when it doesn't need to be. And what he's protecting you from is a fear or doubt that you have manifested, most likely from childhood, of a feeling that you felt for the first time, and your childhood brain doesn't have the life experience or the knowledge to be able to rationalise that feeling. So you've kept that feeling. The next time you feel something that tickles this feeling here, it blows up. And the more that keeps happening, the more it blows up and the more exaggerated the fear gets. Then you stop doing things, because if I do that, then it'll bring it on. It'll make me worried. It'll make me anxious. It'll make me go into a crash. That's indulging in the fear, and that is making it bigger and bigger and bigger, because it's telling your brain, yeah, that's right, you are right to fight that, because I am terrified of that and you are protecting me. And by shying away from it and letting it happen, you are making that fear bigger and better and stronger, because you're basically saying, yeah, Greg, you were in the right to do that.
So you're not turning off the adrenaline tap.
You're not turning off the adrenaline tap, because there is no solution to this fear.
Yes.
Because it's only getting bigger with you giving into it.
Yeah.
So that is Greg, you fight or flight, bless his heart.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody name their bouncer right this second. Okay. It turns out everything she was noting down when I first went, my first session, the middle of the mind map was my bouncer. And everything that I was saying or doing that she was like, this is her bouncer talking, this is that inner critic, that's Greg, that is your threat and self-protection part of the 3 circles.
Right, okay.
So this is the brain. This is the diagram that we need to be looking at here.
Yeah.
This is Greg. He's the threat and self-protection. He's your fight, flight, freeze. He is there for your best interest, but doesn't always get it right. Okay?
Yeah.
Oh, that's something to note. Bear with me 1 second. I don't know where to tell you that this bit here, Greg, not only was he putting me into fight, flight or freeze, but the actual reaction of my body was to put me into a crash of chronic fatigue.
Yes.
And that adrenaline tap off, I was feeling tired constantly because my fight, flight or freeze was never turned off. I was on constantly. And when something triggered my fear, I went into a crash. So that's something to note, that my presentations of my fight, flight or fear came out in chronic fatigue symptoms. They may come out in, I've got a migraine constantly. They may come out in, I feel negative and rubbish about myself all the time. They may come out in anger outbursts. Anything that tickles your fear will come out in a symptom.
Yeah. Can I stick in an analogy here?
Yeah.
I feel like adrenaline is like electricity.
Yes.
And I feel like the simple analogy for me is turning on a kettle until it boils.
Yeah.
And then flicking that switch until it boils again with another 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And flicking that switch again until it boils again in another 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Never taking your finger off that switch.
Yes.
So you're constantly on boil.
Yeah.
Instead of going through simmer and then to cool.
Exactly.
So I always thought your electricity was your crash and that you had overloaded.
Yeah.
And that's why you crashed.
Yeah.
I used that as a way of describing how you were.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. It's like the circuit that never ends.
Yes.
But you need that switch in the circuit to switch it off.
Yes.
This is your fight, flight or freeze. Mine came out in chronic fatigue symptoms.
Yeah.
Yours may come out in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so confusing to work this out, because everyone's symptoms show differently.
Yes.
So how can we possibly all come to the same diagram at the end of the day? This could be the solving thing. You know how I said it was coming up in different avenues? I wasn't crashing, but I was getting stressed with filming, and I was telling myself I wasn't good enough at it, and oh my god, what's wrong with me? She gave me a little bit of a solution that helps to flick the switch off.
Right.
This is not recommended for people who are prone to self-harm, so just bear that in mind. I wasn't, so she was comfortable to give this to me.
Right.
So, disclaimer alert.
Yes.
Because I don't want to be suggesting anything that I shouldn't be.
Yes.
But you may have noticed actually in a few videos I was wearing a red elastic band around my wrist. She gave me that and she said, if you're having these feelings of beating yourself up for your instinct, which you can't control, then you must snap out of it. And what you do is, pain interjects the thought flow, because instantly your brain then goes to the pain. So you flick the elastic band on your wrist to inflict the pain. Don't do it too hard. I did it way too hard once and nearly flipping weed myself. And then you sing Bar Bar Black Sheep, right?
Right.
Your brain is totally taken away from it. And if it's not, you flick the band again and you sing Bar Bar Black Sheep. And you...
Or any nursery rhyme.
Or any nursery rhyme. Happy upbeat song, quite quick, just to take your mind off that thought. It actually really works because it interjects that indulging of, and I'm this and I'm that and it's all my fault and why am I like this? Because that's all indulging it and it's only making it bigger. So you've got to interject that, and sometimes you just need a little helping hand. I'm no longer wearing the elastic band.
I noticed that. You're right.
It went a bit baggy. I don't know if it's because I used it too hard.
On one occasion we were doing a YouTube video and she got into a fight or flight mode and I grabbed hold of her wrist, I started flicking the band and going, ah!
That is not advisable. So I think for now that's all I've got to tell you about this guy.
Okay.
These 3 circles, as I said, are the brain. What you want is for them all to be the same size circles.
I was going to ask you that. So when the bouncer is kicking off, he's bigger.
Now, yes, and this is what it all comes down to. So what you want is, this is your fruit bowl.
Yeah.
Okay? You have 3 of the same size oranges.
Yeah.
That is a healthy, balanced brain.
Yes.
Okay? You've got the same amount of threat and self-protection as this one here, which is compassion and self-soothing, and this one here, which is drive, desire, and excitement.
Right.
Okay? You want them all to be the same size to be healthy and balanced and not have these random symptoms that crop up. Unfortunately, with this whole fight-flight thing that is caused by a fear or fears inside of you that have built up, this bad boy here enlarges.
Yes, of course he does.
Which is an issue because then these guys
Shrink.
they can't work in harmony because they're out of balance. This makes so much sense to me. My brain was out of balance, which is why I wasn't firing on all cylinders and I felt like I was imbalanced in some way.
Yeah.
But I couldn't work out in what way. This is the way, the brain. So my, bless him, Greg, he turned into a small watermelon. This is the conversation I had with my psychologist. He's a small watermelon. It's not what you want. He's meant to be an orange, right? Same as the others. Because of this, my drive and desire, excitement, how motivated I get about things, how excited I get about things, I felt like actually was being held back by
being
this.
drained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was saying to her, I feel motivated, but actually I feel my brain is motivated, like I want to be motivated, but I'm held back by these limiting beliefs that my inner critic gives me. Greg. Okay?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, my drive and desire turned into, I think it was a kiwi.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I'm
Watermelon kiwi?
yeah. Horrendous, right?
Yeah.
So then we get on to the compassion and self-soothing attachment section. That's this one down here, which again should be the orange.
Right.
Mine's a blueberry.
Oh, no, that's the smallest.
Yeah, it's bad. I know.
Describe to me what this is.
So the compassion and self-soothing bit is very important because that is actually the way that you rebalance all of this.
Right.
So once you've got to the bottom of your fear, you then work on your compassion and self-soothing, which effectively is like if you see a crying child, the first thing you do before you even know what's wrong with them is you pick them up, you rub them, you rub their back, you go, it's okay, what's the matter?
You soothe them.
You soothe them.
Yes.
What we do when we go into a meltdown is we blame ourselves, it's all our fault, there's something wrong with me.
Yes.
We have so much self-hatred towards ourselves, which only grows this feeling right here.
Yeah.
It makes my watermelon turn into a flipping football in my fruit bowl, which you don't want.
No.
So with the compassion self-soothing, it's all about having patience with yourself, understanding this is instinct, I can't control instinct, being aware that this is what's going on rather than it being under the surface in your basement all this time. I can see it and I know what's happening here. I'm aware it's happening, but I don't need to be horrible to myself that it's happening because it's actually just my instinct that I can't control. So the way to rebalance all of these into your oranges is to make this one bigger. And the way you make this one bigger is by all these self-care, self-love exercises. She's going to give me some more of these, but I've just figured some out off my own back because I've been doing, alongside the psychologist, a lot of reading, listening to podcasts. I've been doing breathing exercises. I've really been really interested in it and it's so interesting. So I've been doing this off my own back, but she said to me, oh, you've already kind of got onto this stage, but it's because I'd already been reading about it. So I'm now going to go into some things you can do to increase the compassion and self-soothing fruit into the size of an orange, so this bad boy here starts to shrink down and you get rebalanced. Okay, drive and desire comes with this shrinking.
Okay, right.
Okay, so that's your 3 circles. If you want to screenshot that, please do. Stick it on your wall or your mirror. Also, physio for the brain, I missed that bit. So she was saying to me, you can't expect to be able to run a marathon without learning to jog first.
I agree.
So if you've never exercised this part of the self-love, which we totally discount. We're told when we're younger, you brush your teeth twice a day, you brush your hair, you go in the shower, right? Self-love and self-soothing and compassion for oneself should be as normal to us as brushing our teeth every day. It needs to be a daily practice, but for some reason we're not told that, and that is why often we get this imbalance because we're not doing enough of this, creating inner confidence in our ability.
So we allow our fears to overgrow.
Yeah.
At the same time, we put ourselves down because our fears have overgrown.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is give ourselves a bit of time out.
Yeah.
Understand that these fears, some of them are blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
And slowly work on being kinder to ourselves to reduce the fear.
Yeah. You've got to totally, sorry Greg, but you just got to roll your eyes at him. He gives you an intrusive thought like, what would happen if I did this? Or is this going to happen if I don't do this in time, right? If you have an intrusive thought like that, you roll your eyes and you go, really? Is that the best you've got?
Right, yeah.
And you have to totally belittle him because if
Indulge
you indulge in him, you only grow it. Whereas as soon as you start to be like, really, and this is why it's good to have it as a separate person because you're not then belittling yourself. You're belittling this bouncer that's just got it wrong.
Yeah.
So just do that and see it for what it is. You know it's an irrational thought and be like, well, I'm not going to do that, am I?
Like
and that's not going to happen.
I'm drying the, you know, when the stuff comes out, the cutlery comes out of the dishwasher.
Yeah.
And I'm putting it away in the drawer.
Yeah.
And say I've got a sharp knife.
Yeah.
This irrational thought of, oh, if I drop this now, it'll go straight through my foot.
Or through the dog.
Well,
I had that the other day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Irrational thought, right?
Yeah.
I'm not about to drop it to see if that happens.
No.
So I literally just bat that off as, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That's
what you have to do. Rather than going, okay,
I can't touch the knife.
I can't load the dishwasher because if I touch that knife, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. No, because that is indulging it and making it have leverage. You need to just roll your eyes and be like, really?
Yes.
It's as simple as that. And it might be hard to start off with, but just keep doing it. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go on to the things that I have done and continue to do. And this is why I say it's like an ongoing thing, because this is a lifestyle change. And I think if you are like me and you've had something that's made you feel like you were poorly for that long, you'll do anything. If I need to change my lifestyle, I'll change it. Just to not feel like that.
Yeah.
But they're not even bad things. They're actually very enjoyable and simple and straightforward.
You just have to make time for it.
You have to make time for it. And it's important that we do set aside time. And it's little changes also, like we've mentioned before, about not people pleasing, not saying yes to everybody, knowing your boundaries and having the confidence in yourself that no, I'm not comfortable with that. You have to set your boundaries, because otherwise you do just become a slave to other people and you're not thinking about your best interests, which in turn will create this fear in your head of you not being worthy or good enough to have your own boundaries and live your life how you want to live your life. Things that I've done.
Right, go for it.
There's books, there's a podcast I'm going to say, and some self-care things. These are all ways of building up your awareness of this whole thing, and also the whole self-compassion thing, helping to build that up. I probably will have more when I've spoken to her, but I'll come back to you. Books I'd recommend. I've been reading loads this year, mainly on the topic or things around the topic, because the more I read it, the more my brain is reminded of, oh yeah, and I read little snippets and I hear a little quote and I'm like, this is all helping me to be totally in tune with what's going on here. I know what Greg is up to and I am onto him.
Yes.
So the first one is really interesting. It's actually a manifest book.
Yes.
I read this last year, or it might have been the year before, I can't remember. And I loved it at the time. I read it in a day. And it's the most simple, straightforward book to teach you about manifestation. So if anybody wants to get into manifesting, I'd recommend this book. What's really interesting is, we've been into manifesting for a while, but it totally goes hand in hand with this whole thing that I've been learning about in the brain. And you can't manifest unless you get rid of this fear and doubt. And I was wondering why certain things I wanted to manifest weren't coming true. And there is this underlying thing when you've got this fear and doubt of you're not worthy to deserve those things, or it probably won't happen for you, or like this fear of failure deep down. There's something there that's holding back this manifestation because you don't fully believe it. You don't fully believe in yourself. And you might think, oh no, I think I do. I thought I did, but I actually don't. When you go down this journey, you don't. And that is why, I don't know, that's why this all kicks off in the first place. But the reason I recommend this book is it goes hand in hand with so many things that I've talked about, as well as manifesting and self-care and ways in believing in yourself and just creating your best life. So it's just really good for anybody to read that.
Yes.
It just makes sense.
It's positivity and thoughts around positivity and how to re-establish yourself in a positive mindset all the time.
Yes, but there's this thing called toxic positivity, and that's being frustrated. Why can't I be positive all the time? I need to be positive. I can't possibly feel a negative emotion right now. I can't be sad because I'm meant to be positive. That's toxic positivity. Yes. It's knowing that you can go through those emotions, but you know how to then become happy again, or the things to do to get you out of that. But I just recommend that to everybody.
So that's Roxie Nafousi, right?
Roxie Nafousi, Manifest. Really good book, and it's just something to read and open your horizons, bring your awareness to things.
Oh, what a lot of coffee marks there are around here.
Yeah, that was you, honey. Another one I've been reading, haven't finished yet, is this one. Now, I will say this is quite intense, and I was reading it before bed because that was one of my New Year's resolutions, to read before bed instead of phone before bed, because then you get a better night's sleep. So all these little self-care
What about
things.
Love Island before bed?
Love Island is fine, as long as you read afterwards.
Okay.
Or just spend some screen time. No, spend time without the screen time.
Yeah.
So this one is so enlightening, but it's quite, I'd say, intense. You can get it in an audiobook, which might be good because then you can listen to it maybe in short bursts. But when you're reading it and there's these like little writing and it's quite intense, it's a lot to take on board. But oh my God, is it interesting, about how the mind is so powerful that actually a lot of illnesses are caused by our mind.
Right.
And this was what was confusing to me, because I was like, it seems like doctors, I'm using doctors as a whole, obviously not all doctors, but the doctors I've seen, they use mind and body as two separate entities, when actually they're totally linked, and most of the illnesses caused within our body are because of our thoughts and our mind. And this book tells you about all these different illnesses. He talks about cancer. This is a doctor. Talks about cancer, motor neuron disease that have been caused, people may have been slightly more prone to it than others, but have been caused by people's thoughts and what they've been through. And honestly, I mean, it's not for the faint-hearted, because you could start thinking deeply into that, but it's crazy that we as a whole don't know that our mind can cause these illnesses within us. And our thoughts contain energy, which then is running around us, and if this total negative energy is running around us, you can see how it happens.
But it doesn't mean that everybody that gets ill has got negative thoughts.
Not necessarily, but it could be their fear, or their
fear.
The deep-rooted thing. And this is why we need to get to the bottom of it and build this self-compassion, because you could be underlyingly
Harming yourself.
Instead of your thoughts causing symptoms, it could then physically come out as a proper real-life symptom that needs to be fixed physically then.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting read, and I'm still getting through it. It's called When the Body Says No, The Cost of Hidden Stress by Gabor Maté. Oh, this one I've nearly finished. It's The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving an F. It's a little bit different. I got this for Christmas. This is more for those people who struggle to just take on too many things, take on too many of other people's thoughts and opinions, need practices to put in place to be firm in their own thoughts and beliefs, and know when to say no to things and when not to worry about things. It's light-hearted and funny. It's just like a different route, I suppose.
A good read.
It's a good read.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. That's by Sarah Knight.
By Sarah Knight. Thank you, assistant.
You're welcome.
Another thing that I've, oh my God, been loving is this Psychologies magazine. I've subscribed to it. The reason I even knew about it was because Roxie Nafousi, who I follow on Instagram, she's the one that wrote the Manifest book. Yeah. She is on the front cover of this one.
Yes, she is.
So I saw it and I was like, oh, I want to read what she's put in there, because I just totally believe in what she says. So I bought this magazine, and just everything in it is everything I need to hear. It's totally up my street. It's everything that I've been learning about. It tells you podcasts to listen to, stories from other people. It's really good. So if you like magazines, this is a really good one. And I've just had my second copy come through the post, which I'm very excited about. Started reading that, and it's just as good as the first one.
Awesome.
So love those.
Okay. Once a month, right?
Once a month they come through.
Yeah.
And you know what? It took me a month to read the first one, because I'll read an article and then I'm like, okay, I'm done reading now. I'm going to go do something else. And then I'll come back to it another day. And it's nice to have throughout the month little bits. Yeah. And I find that all these things I'm doing, because it's regular little bits of reading, nothing's too intense, little bits of reading, little bits of podcast, little bits of self-care, little bits of breathing, it constantly keeps me in this frame of mind of why I'm doing this, and reminding me of these thoughts that I should be having, these things that people are telling me, other people's experiences. It's very good to keep that dripping tap of these of this information, so it keeps you in that frame of mind.
Top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, a podcast.
Yes.
That I never listen to podcasts, right? But what I've been doing is, when I go in the shower, I put on this podcast, because I was recommended it through the Psychologies magazine, and it's called Dethroning Your Inner Critic by Joanna Kleinman. Everything she says is like gospel. It's everything. I'm like, yes, that is so true. And I listened to this one the other night, and if you listen to any of them, please, after this video, just listen to this one, because she hits every nail on every head. Okay?
Right, what is it? What have we got to listen to?
So, it's Dethroning Your Inner Critic. That is the name of her podcast by Joanna Kleinman. Listen to the Science Behind Why You Can't Feel Joy episode. It only came out a few days ago. Listen to it. It's half an hour of your life, which will be invaluable. She's building on everything that I've said, but the sort of things she comes out with, I'm like, yes, that is so true.
Question.
Yeah.
How do you listen to a podcast?
On an Apple iPhone, there's a podcast app, which you just search it in there, totally free.
Right.
I think people with Spotify, you can search for podcasts on there.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's on Spotify, I assume she is.
Yeah.
I don't have Spotify.
But you're going to list this out so we know exactly.
Yes, yeah, I can do that, no
problem.
Okay. she says things in that which are so true and so relatable. And she says things like, you're putting off the joy from now to the future. You'll say things like, when this is all sorted out, then I can do this, or when I have enough money, then I'll do this, or when I've got the time to do this, and I'll do this, I'll do that in the future. You get to that time in the future, and already all these other things have been piled on. Yeah. So you'll never get to that point.
Yeah.
So
it's called procrastination.
It's procrastination. It's putting things off, and you know what? Deep down, it is that inner critic of, I'm going to make these excuses because it saves me from feeling the failure if it doesn't work out now, or feeling like I'm not good enough if it doesn't work out now. Just the time is now, and you've got to believe in yourself and do these things to help yourself believe in yourself.
Yes.
There is enough abundance in this world for everybody to achieve what they want to achieve. You just got to believe that, and believe that you are worthy, you deserve it, and do the steps that you need to do to get there.
I see why you've got to do this on a daily basis.
Yes.
Because intrusive thoughts and negativity creep in on a daily basis.
And as you start doing it, it might get more because it's like, no, she's on to me.
Yes.
But you've got to keep going. And this is what I mean by a lifestyle change. It is constant, because life is going to happen. And sometimes bad things happen in life that you can't control. And it's people happen. People do things that you can't control. You can't change other people, but you can change how it makes you feel and how you react to it.
Yes.
And that is what you've got to work on. So you may have a really negative influence in your life, but they're related to you and you can't really sack them off. You need to work out.
We're talking about family members there, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
Then you need to know how to deal with that. Because you're never going to change them.
Yes.
They're deep rooted and they're probably like that because of their own fear.
Yes.
And you know what? Now I can see other people's fears in them because of how they act. And because I'm so like in tune with it, I'm like, wow, you are showing serious signs of a fear of failure.
Yeah.
And it's the way it is. Usually they're portraying it in there every day, and what they're saying and what they're doing.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so nearly there. So please listen to that. She says invaluable things. Just put it on when you're in the shower. Put it on when you're getting ready.
Yeah.
It's half an hour of your life, which is so worth giving to her.
Got ya.
Then self-care bits. Now, breathing and meditation, this has been a huge part of it. And I've never taken it as seriously before, but it should be a part of your everyday, just like brushing your teeth. The feeling you get when you have done 5, 10, 15 minutes of breathing, I genuinely feel like I've been to the spa for a day. It freaks me right out. But my psychologist gave me breathing exercises from the moment I saw her. Actually, before I went to her, she sent them over. And I've been doing them ever since. And even if it's just not like a guided meditation, someone telling you what to think about or what to do, if you just set a timer or you do it for however long feels right, you breathe.
Show me.
Deep
do it as if it's me.
So you need a hand on your chest, a hand on your stomach.
Got ya.
The idea is, don't worry if you can't do this straight away, because you will make yourself out of breath panicking doing this. But you need the air to go to your stomach, not your chest. If you're chest breathing, that is shallow breaths, and that is sending signals to the brain of, I'm not calm, I'm not content, it's not nourishing, right?
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that it's your hand down here on your belly that's going up. You're sending your breath down there. It's a deep inward breath to the stomach and then out. And the idea is...
Does this not move?
That shouldn't move.
You can't... So the chest doesn't move, but the belly does?
No, and I find... Yes. Yes. Nothing moves, you're not breathing. I find the best way to do it is laying down. It's easier. I find sitting up, I find it a bit harder to get my breath to my stomach. So I'd recommend laying down, either in bed, on the sofa. It doesn't matter if things are happening around you, because the idea is that you're focusing on your breath. So yes, you hear things that are going on outside. You've got your eyes closed, by the way. You're hearing things that are going on around you, but you're not indulging in them. You're getting thoughts. You might get an intrusive thought, but you're not indulging in it and going down this like rabbit hole of, oh, but then and then this could have happened. And what if I do this? This will happen. You're getting a thought, and you're like, oh, okay, I have this thought. Okay, let it go. Something else
Carry on
comes
breathing.
in. And you probably will get random... I think of some right random things when I'm meditating, but it also gives you a lot of clarity on thoughts. And I get some good things, like ideas come to me when I'm doing it. You might be focusing on your breathing and thinking nothing at all. But one thing to note is you can only have one thought at a time.
Yes.
So if you're having a negative thought, replace it with a positive one and you can only think of one at a time. So then you're having a positive thought and forgetting about that one that's just been negative.
Or sometimes the negative one is knocking on the positive's door, but you just have to continue with a positive thought.
Yeah. It takes a little bit of work and effort, but don't worry about thoughts coming in, because that's very normal when you're breathing or meditating. But honestly, just try it. Do the belly going up and down, lay there for 5, 10, 15 minutes. I do it before I go to bed. I open my eyes, I look around, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so relaxed, like I've been to the spa. My psychologist says you should feel like that all the time.
Like you've just been to the spa.
Yeah.
Funny, because
totally.
Obviously it has made you feel so much better by doing that. So the other day, I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed with, I wasn't able to get my words out. My brain and my mouth were working at different speeds. This is all perimenopause.
Yeah.
Shiz going down, right? So I decided to just go sit on the floor. It was actually in the sunshine. Oh, can you tell? Sit on the floor in the sunshine and just do 30 deep breaths.
Yeah.
The first 5 I noticed were very shallow. And I thought, oh! So I really concentrated on the next 25 being deeper, longer, and from my stomach instead of from my chest.
Yeah.
And I felt much better about the fact that we were just about to go out and we were going to have a lovely time.
Yeah.
Whereas before that, I was feeling a little bit like, oh, here I go again, brain and mouth aren't matching up.
Was saying, oh, you're going to stumble on your words.
Yes.
And I've even tried that out, you know. When let's say I was reading cards in a like trivia game.
Yeah.
I did this, right? I was getting through all these cards and I wasn't stuttering on my words. And my brain was going, oh, you're not stuttering on your words. You might stutter on your words on your next one. And I flipping did. And I was like, yes, there you go. You listen to that inner critic and then it happens. And then you're like, it was right. It's not right. It's because of you listening to it then makes it happen. So, and then that's like, yes, I've proved to her that I'm right. When actually, that's not the case. You just got to be like, don't be silly. Take a deep breath. Continue. It's so interesting. It has such an influence. But yeah, the breathing thing is invaluable, and
do it from day one.
Do it every day. Maybe when you get up, just take 5 deep breaths. Sit on the side of your bed, 5 deep breaths in and out. I also have stopped picking up my phone until after breakfast. So, I pick it up, I take it off charge, put it in my pocket. Going on to the next thing, I then go for a walk in the morning, just a quick walk. But before I see everybody else in the house, or like before I start my day, I go on a walk, I look at nature, I take Bonnie with me, she loves it. And that fresh air, that not seeing anything on your phone that's going to annoy you or make you think about something before you start your day, like just starting your day in a really pure way is amazing. And that's the same with going to bed, not going on your phone before bed, because even the blue light affects your sleep.
I've heard this.
And if you see something that annoys you or you don't like or makes you think about something, that's going to affect your sleep as well, and it's going to affect your thoughts as you're going to sleep, and you're affecting your sleep cycle brainwaves by this blue light and interjecting. And it's just not a good thing to do before or after bed. When you've woken up and you've done something mindful, go ahead, check your phone.
I would just like to interject here. You told me this the other week.
Yeah.
So I didn't look at my phone, which I think makes my eyes go droopy and then therefore go to sleep. So I thought, right, take on board what you said. The blue light's not good for you. Watch TV until you start to drop off. Unfortunately, you have to make a conscious decision not to watch Accident and Emergency. Because I then end up in tears, not able to sleep because I've upset myself from what I've watched on TV.
Right, don't be watching telly. Flipping, if it's not Love Island, you need to not put the telly on.
Yes.
You need to read.
You
need to breathe. Something else.
Yes.
Okay? Anything else.
I hear you.
Right?
I just didn't listen. I heard her and I just didn't listen.
And this is the thing. If you feel like you've been through this whole video and you've heard me but not listened, watch it again. Because trust me, I just think, even if you don't have something really serious that you need to sort out, I think it's going to help everybody. I really do. Kindness and patience toward yourself, that obviously goes with the circle at the bottom. You have to know that you are doing your best and you're the only person that is going to be with you for your whole life. You can't beat yourself up for your whole life and then that just be it. How boring, how annoying. Like, what's the point in that? We need to love ourselves, otherwise how can anybody else love us? How can anybody else think we're worthy when we don't even think we're worthy? And you want to be able to feel that, and sometimes your fear is holding you back. But you need to make a conscious effort to do that. And if you find yourself going, oh, silly me, or oh, that was stupid of me, why did I do that? Oh, for God's sake, why did I do this? Just take a breath and be like, no, I'm trying my best. that can wait. Or, oh, I didn't know that at the time. Andrea?
I think a fear for a lot of people is not being loved or liked. And that's when they drop their boundaries.
Yeah.
So I think by liking and loving yourself first,
Yes.
knowing that you're being fair to people,
Yeah.
if they don't then love or like you, screw them.
And this is where it goes hand in hand with the manifestation, because it's all about the energy you give out, you get back. If you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to get cheated on, I'm not worthy of a loving relationship, maybe you're not saying that, but your subconscious is definitely saying that, it'll happen, and then you'll be like, I knew it, I was right, always happens to me, I was right. That is because you're manifesting that energy out there. If you're saying, if you genuinely believe, like, you've put in this work to love yourself, you think you're great, you are so excited for that right person to come into your life that treats you right, and if they don't, they're not worthy of you, that is manifesting the right energy to get what you want. That's why I think manifestation really goes hand in hand, because it is often about an energy thing of what you put out, you get back. So just be aware of that as well. Affirmations.
Wow.
I got this pen pot from HomeSense. How cute is that?
That's a boot.
Everyone's like, okay, what the hell is she going on about? Affirmations. She just shows a mini cowboy boot.
That is cute.
So I bought these mirror... They're not actually mirror pens. They're wipeable pens that you can use on glass.
Right.
But I saw CC Clark on Instagram. I love her. She writes her affirmations on the mirror with her daughters every morning. I was like, that's such a good idea, because you look at it every day when you're getting ready, and what's the harm in saying something to yourself like, I've just cleaned my teeth, I am worthy of all that I desire. What's the harm in saying that? Because the more you say it, the more your brain starts to believe it, because thoughts become beliefs. So you need to be thinking these things to then believe them, and that's how you then believe you're worthy of certain things, you know, the spiel. So I've been writing things on my mirrors, messages, and when I look in the mirror, I make an active effort to say it out loud. It feels weird to start off with, but then you say it and you look at yourself and you're smiling as you say it because you believe it. Keep doing that. Little steps like that can help towards. One more thing I've been doing is a gratitude journal before bed, because in that book that's a bit sketchy because it's a bit worrying, where that's the one when the body says no. Wait, was it in this book? It might have been a totally different book. I could have made that up. Ignore me.
Right.
I think it was in that book.
Right.
Something like, I'm not going to be specific with the numbers here, but just take this. Gratitude for 10 to 15 minutes a day, 3 times a day, can improve your immune system by such and such percent. This shows how our thoughts can actually affect, like, if we get ill, like our immune system. So I thought, you know what? Yeah, let's practice some gratitude, because I feel like I'm very grateful for a lot of things, but you need to voice it to really see how you are. And I can't remember where I read this, but I read somewhere, if you do a gratitude journal of everything that happened throughout the day that you were grateful for, it's just a really nice thing to do to get your gratitude in. So I have this by the side of my bed. So it's a plain lined book that I've got here. I write the date at the top, and then I just bullet point a page worth. Sometimes I don't quite fill a page, and sometimes one affirmation, one grateful statement is so long that it takes up half a page. But I go through my day methodically, and I think of everything that made me smile, everything that made me grateful, everything that was positive that happened, everything that I'm excited for. And it lets you reflect on your day in such a lovely way. And I can even look back at this and see what made me grateful on different days. And it can be something so small, like when I got into bed with my fresh pyjamas and fresh sheets, that went in the gratitude journal. Because it's an amazing feeling. And I'm so grateful in that moment that I've got fresh sheets and fresh pyjamas. It takes me 2 minutes, 3-4 minutes, if that. I have a pen and a book at the side of my bed, do it, job done. And it's such a lovely way to then go to sleep, to have reflected on your day in such a positive way. And if something negative, you could say, has happened, I look at a positive spin on that as to, actually, I've learnt from that in this way, or I'm not going to be hard on myself for that because it's taught me something. Oh, actually, I've also got these. We'll end it on that. I got these from TK Maxx.
5 minutes in the morning, a focused deck.
Now, if you find yourself reaching for that phone, even though you said, I'm not going to reach my phone first thing in the morning, I'm going to wait till after breakfast. I was still doing it. I still do it sometimes now. Maybe you just need something by the side of your bed to occupy you before you're ready to get out of it, okay? And I found these cards called 5 minutes in the morning, and it's just a 5-minute thought/activity to get you thinking in the day. So what does this say?
A true secret of happiness lies in taking a genuine interest in the details of daily life.
So you flip it over and then it will give you something to do or think about, which is...
Mindfulness is about focusing on the present moment and simply being aware and acknowledging what is going on both inside you and around you. Here are 3 simple exercises for noticing the small but important elements that make up the everyday life. Look carefully around the room. Notice the pictures on the wall, the pieces of furniture and the way the light streams through the windows. Go out into the garden and stand on the balcony or just open a window. Close your eyes and listen to the sounds of the morning. Enjoy a cup of coffee or tea. Do nothing else. Simply breathe in the aroma and savour the taste.
I love that one. That is another thing that we all are guilty of. Being blinkered throughout our day, going on to the next task.
Being in the moment.
We're not present.
No.
There's all these things going on around us that, like, you can notice little things in your garden.
Yeah.
Or on your dog.
Yeah.
Or on your desk. Like, notice little things or just look out the window. Like, stand in nature for a couple of minutes and notice something. Look at that bird that's making its nest up there. Little things like that. Mindfulness is so important and it really changes your mindset. And that's what I do on my morning walk. I'm looking around. If anyone saw me, they'd think I was a right weirdo because I'm looking around like this. Can I see any deer? I saw a squirrel over there. Like, I'm proper into it and I'm really enjoying it, and there's joy in the little things that you totally miss unless you're being aware of your surroundings.
You're absolutely right.
This was so long.
And there's not much to cut out, Bob.
I know.
Usually we'd waffle on a right load of rubbish and then you have to cut out half an hour.
Got out my storage.
I know. That's not a metaphor. That is simply meaning
not my basement.
The storage of the camera.
Yeah, right. I feel like I've spilled everything I can out there from this moment because I made notes and I was really trying to make sure that I didn't leave anything out. Obviously, in the future, when I learn more, I would love to tell you more. And if anybody has any questions about anything, then let me know. We can even do a Q&A in the next one.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, because this has been full of information. I'm sure people go, what?
If
what
you've
about
got
this?
questions,
What about that?
yeah. If anyone has any specific questions, I am so more than happy to answer them because I'm so passionate about how this literally changed my life, and I feel like it could change so many people's lives. So I'll give all the time to it that I need to. I just want everyone to know the basics, start to finish. And obviously, also thank you to everybody who watched the first video, everybody who gave me suggestions, to the girl that messaged me who did not have to message me. I thanked her personally for that, but she didn't have to message me, and if she'd have never said anything, like if I had never said anything, I could be holding somebody back for their entire life from knowing what's wrong. Let's do a shout out, Andrea.
God, who's the lucky person today then?
Oh, let's see, shall we?
Yeah.
Today's shout out goes to Leanne Guest. Leanne, thank you so much for commenting and thank you for being so lovely. We really appreciate it. If they haven't, Andrea, which they should have done by this time, we've had them long enough now. If you got to the end of this video, flipping...
Yeah.
The least you could do is these 5 things because that is dedication.
Yeah, and also, this, more than any other video you've ever done, I think is the one that will benefit more people by sharing it. Right, let's do this, peoples. Let's like the video. Let's subscribe to this channel. Let's share it with a friend or 10.
Yes.
Let's comment, because the comments are going to be instrumental in getting more information out there. And then let's subscribe to TikTok and Instagram because that's where we do all our stupid stuff.
So there you go. That's all we've got to say. I'm sure next week's video will be a little less intense.
Yeah.
Maybe not as informative.
Yeah, as will my sunburn.
Yeah.
Be a little less intense.
Win-win. So we'll see you next week with a brand new video.
Okay, bye.